Hey everybody, welcome back to Bennie Unfiltered. Hey everybody, it's Bennie Unfiltered Live. Everybody that's reached out, I want to say thank you very much for tuning in and reaching out over the time. We're getting ready to go live on Sling Studio and everything, and we want to get started a little bit with the episodes that everyone's pretty much told me they want to hear about. I've asked for feedback on different topics, and we've come up with the first 4 and then some to go into some series. And the first one will be on the fear of being fearful. And we're going to break it down. So it's a series broke down into 4 components. I suggest anybody that wants to take this very seriously to grab your notebook and pen. I took down some notes because I wanted to follow through this the right way and not just be some up in here rehearsed. There's some things I took along the way, even up to today, on studying about fears. So I kind of jotted them down and printed. That's why we're a little bit behind today. But I want to start off with the function of fear. Okay? And now this is pretty important because it's identifying our fears all the way through every episode that we'll be touching base on. So I want to start off by sharing with you that fear does exist. We all experience it at one time or another. The level of severity can differ drastically from person to person, and that the potential danger is there. The challenge is, do we allow fear to control us, or do we take charge of its grasp? For me personally, it depends on how severe I want to mess with my head a little bit, right? Because we can actually dwell a little longer than we should on something, and this is going to get us through that. The challenge is, do we allow it to control us or not, or do we let go of this grasp, right? So now we're also having to come up with a strategy for shortening the amount of time it holds it in its grasp. I want us to think about some of the ways fear can hold us back. Also think about some areas in your life that fear has shown itself. My first thing that I can relate to is step 1 for me was the fear of success. It's a big one. I mean, I would always sabotage it. I would have a way in my past to come up and say, I can't do this. And you know, sabotaging yourself is our own fault. Don't do it. Keep it going. Keep working through it, okay? Work through anything that you've had in your past to strengthen your bond to getting moving forward. Fear destroys dreams and squanders human potential. That's what I know. Imagine how many people in businesses that were never started, and how many products and services that never reached the market. A lot. Now imagine how these could have been impacted by our economy. All because of this one virus, fear. The function of fear. The function of fear is to avoid or reduce potential harm. That's our meaning of it. So I want to leave with this. If anything, pay attention. And I hope you took your notes. The natural trigger for fear is the threat of harm. Real or imagined. Remember, you can create these fears, so dissect them from reality to fiction. I'm going to share with you guys a couple techniques and strategies that I've used to control my anxiety and move forward past my fears. Push it too long on this, but I really want you to make that list. So I hope everybody makes a list of all the fears that they're currently working on, okay? And once you do that, now ask yourself, are these fears vital to me? And if so, how important? Now seriously, you got to ask yourself, if these fears, like my non-consistency or my discipline, don't work for me and I don't apply that, what happens? Not good stuff. Things fall apart, okay? And it's very vital to me to work through this, because if I fail, there's a lot that's affected by that. Other fears kick in, like how am I going to pay my bills? I just quit my career job, don't even got benefits, okay? There has to be food on the plate, right, for the kids. Everything that is the responsibilities that you've had to build and earn are now affected because you have not disciplined yourself or been consistent with things or made the effort to do it. Nothing gets handed to you. You gotta work for it. You gotta have passion for it. These are big consequences. If you don't do these things, you lose. There's no other options in that, right? That is not one. We do not lose at this, we gain, okay? One fear at a time. Becoming fearless doesn't happen overnight, okay? You gotta sometimes just sit there and think about the fears and the steps that have worked you through it to accomplish it. Because that's the tools you get. That's the discipline. That's the learning process. That's just becoming more consistent with this, okay? I mean, seriously, you guys gotta listen. You gotta take your notes. You gotta do this. You gotta apply yourself full time, not part time. In order to do that, you gotta put in the work. When we isolate our fears, how do we detect those fears to even isolate in the first place? One of the things I'm always talking about is people, places, and things, because that can be the biggest thing. How do we isolate from those that we love or have become super close family and friends or just acquaintances or whatnot that are in our circle, but have something to do with this fear thing that we talk about? One thing is to isolate from those situations, and what I tend to do now is detect it. So if I detect something that's an ongoing problem, then there's a problem there. I'm ultimately in charge of anything that has to do with anything that affects me. So I have to identify that I can't blame somebody for where they're at in their life. They might not even know that they're doing it, and if they do, they just don't want to do nothing about it. So sometimes when you change these things, people will look at you as, oh, you just think you're better than. Well, maybe you are, because you're willing to medicate this. It's like a virus, right? We isolate these fears and they can spread and be toxic, and we can break out in all kinds of things of fear, and it ultimately will break you down and destroy you. I face them all the time. So you want to detect these things and you want to isolate as soon as possible from them, because if you prolong it, it's only going to make it worse. I talk about it in all the series. Recognize it, and when you recognize it, remove it now. We'll always be faced with fears. It's just inevitable. So face them, but be strong about them and recognize them. The sooner, the better. Today we're going to talk about the design and strategy to beat your fear, okay? This is the wrap up of it. Acceptance. You know what? My wife reminded me of that. I got to give credit to her on that one. She told me you got to accept these things. Now here's the thing that I pondered. Yes, accept that they're there. We're born with fears. I believe that fears are important when you're starting to do something like jump off, the cliff there to start a business or do whatever it is that you're out to do, because it is fearful. We're scared. If you didn't have that, I would be worried. I'm fearful every time I go on here, to be honest with you, because I'm always worried about if something's going to go right or wrong. Accepting that is an acceptance, right? But we don't have to accept it and live it. So don't live it. Accept it and work through it. That's why we have the notes. That's why we have the tools. That's why we have the coaches. That's why we have the resources. Don't be lazy. You've got to get off your feet and get into the book and get into the grind. Acceptance is that it's reality, that these things are always going to come. But working through them is another thing. Rise above it and beat it. I like to be challenged. Challenge me. I want to be challenged so I can beat it. 2020, it is Bennie Unfiltered. We're achieving goals. I'm achieving them with you. We can do this. Accept it. Accept that you're a winner. Every day you get up and go to bed, say, I'm a winner and I did good today. Do it as you're brushing your teeth, combing your hair, getting ready to kiss the kids goodbye and the wife or the husband, and go live your dream. Accept that. This is Bennie with Unfiltered, okay? We're going to accept these things.